Can the BBC turn it around? Do they even want to turn it around? You'd have to ask that question as well. And joining me now to discuss just that is Jonny Gould, TalkTV presenter and the host of the Jonny Gould Jewish State podcast. Jonny, welcome to the Independent Republic of Mike Graham.
It's a pleasure to be in your republic, Mike.
Well, listen, we've got lots to talk about and we haven't got a great deal of time to do it. But, I mean, the BBC, it seems to me, have got a massive problem here because clearly the people who work there, if they are Jewish, feel uncomfortable. They were told, I think, in no uncertain terms, not to take part in a march against anti-Semitism, for one thing. We've got Jeremy Bowen, their long-time serving foreign correspondent, happily misreporting events in the Middle East and then saying, I got it wrong, but I don't regret it. What's going on?
Yeah, they've disappeared down an editorial rabbit hole and they are not willing to come back up for air at any time, Mike. The lazy reporting follows just one editorial route. It never asks the question why Israel is perpetuating this attack on Hamas terrorists. They don't even describe Hamas as terrorists. They are a prescribed terrorist group, according to the government. And it's an appalling state of affairs. You can see it in the Ukraine-Russia coverage. Now, I'm not criticizing them here, but it is one-sided based upon Ukraine, and we've definitely seen that here with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict as well. And it doesn't broaden out either, Mike, because this is a complicated discussion here, because there are two conflicts going on at the same time. There's the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which is raging in Gaza, and there is the Israeli-Arab conflict, which, believe it or not, is nearing solution. You'd never hear that on the BBC, but it is a fact between the Sunni Arabs and the Israelis that peace might be around a corner, and indeed that might be where the solution is. You would never hear that on the Today programme or anywhere else.
No. I mean, we had that ludicrous introduction by the Radio 4 presenter on the Today programme when she was asking one of the, I think it was Mark Harper, a government minister, if he had visited any mosques in the last month in his constituency. And before he had a chance to sort of not be pilloried for not visiting one, he then managed to explain, well, actually, there aren't any mosques in my constituency. So, you know, the whole thing is ridiculous. You know, the whole gotcha moment that they try for now every time you see a BBC person interviewing anyone, it's always about Israel, isn't it? And now Islamophobia.
Well, yes, the Shifa Hospital coverage was the worst example of that, where they reported the highly suspect Gaza Health Ministry, which is basically a member of the Hamas team with a fax machine, who told people that 500 people had been killed when basically it was an Islamic Jihad rocket which had misfired and ended up in the car park. We don't even know if it killed anyone. It blew a few curtains around and a pane of glass of a few windows as well. I just happened to dip into the Today programme yesterday and they asked a Gazan journalist the normal line of questioning, are you okay, hun? Everything all right in exile in Germany? Are you all right? Everything okay? That was kind of what was going on. Meanwhile, on the Israeli side, they dipped into basically one of the most eminent Israeli journalists of all time. They mispronounced his name. They didn't give him the credit he deserved. He's written a book called Rise and Kill First. I'm, of course, talking about Ronen Bergman. He took 8 years to write about Mossad's secret killings and assassinations. So what he doesn't know about the front line in urban warfare, no one does. And they didn't question him properly. They mispronounced his name as Ronan. And then they went back to, are you okay, hun? Jeremy Bowen is someone I have to switch out to. I get to the part of the word Jeremy and I have to switch out because it's too painful to listen to. The narrative is one-sided.
The other danger of what that report was saying in the hospital attack, as you say, that was a Jeremy Bowen line. He had fed it to BBC News. They reported it. And, of course, because the BBC around the world perhaps has a better reputation than it does back here at home, you know, there were riots in the streets in places like Tehran, in places like Ankara. You know, people were out demonstrating that the Israelis had deliberately bombed a hospital. And, you know, by the time the truth was actually revealed, that it turned out it wasn't that what had happened, the damage was already done.
Not to mention 100,000 plus who turn up in our city of London or outside Westminster and around the West End of London in flash mobs at Liverpool Street with hundreds of people there being useful idiots for the Iranian regime. They must be licking their lips at this. This is incitement.
Yes.
And it is a place where Jewish people cannot go shopping, or indeed anyone who has any civilized ideas of wanting to have a bit of leisure time on a Saturday afternoon. I'm afraid they are inciting the population, and they are turning good people away from our sort of tolerant society. It has to stop.
And what do you make of these conversations which are going on just this week because of what Lee Anderson said? You know, we had Paul Scully talking about no-go areas in London, no-go areas in Birmingham. Some people in London saying absolutely not true. There's plenty of places you can go. It's all fine and dandy. I mean, your experience might be different.
Look, I mean, you know, I like to go to Brick Lane in Whitechapel because it was a Jewish area before it was a Bangladeshi area, because there's still a bagel shop there selling delicious, salty,
I know it well,
and smoked salmon bagels.
Yeah.
I would say other bagel shops are available, but they're probably not. And it's not a no-go area for me. I'm absolutely fine navigating London. And what I would say about Lee Anderson's comments is I wouldn't apologise either. And whilst it was perhaps a clumsy comment to make, there is a hint of truth in it, in the sense that we need to have a serious argument about Islamist bullying of our institutions, be it the legislature, the parliament. Harriet Harman wants to work from home. No, she shouldn't. She should go to work and not be intimidated. Sir Lindsay Hoyle, what did he do that for? Admit to being intimidated for the safety of their MPs. And the police, of course, standing away from blatant crimes against terrorism, banned organisations, the Black Islamist flag across London.
Yeah, it is absolutely remarkable, isn't it? Jonny, good to speak to you. Thank you very much indeed. Jonny Gould there with his roundup of the BBC being castigated now by a former Attorney General for its anti-Semitic problems, because there can be no doubt that is precisely what they are suffering from. And it's not been a great week, of course, for the BBC, because they've also been forced to apologise to the family of the young teenager who was being messaged and paid money by Hugh Edwards. We spoke about that on the show yesterday.